Good morning. This song is off of our first album. It's called Bleach, and maybe some of you don't know that it even exists, but you should go out and buy it. Go to that record store called Groovy something. I don't remember the name of it. Groovy. The Groovy record store. You know what I'm talking about.
On February 9, 1992, Nirvana played their only ever show in New Zealand. There was never any video taken of the show, and it seemed that no recording of any sort could be found from the show. But 30 years later, audio from Nirvana's only ever New Zealand concert has finally surfaced. The recording of the show was simply made from a Walkman and a cassette, and the existence of the tape had always just been a rumor. But the woman who made the recording that night, who wants to be known just as Jenny, finally released the tape to the public 30 years after the show in February of 2022. There was a lot of energy on that night. The sound wasn't that great, to be honest, but the vibe was really cool, Jenny said. It just became a gig that was really significant in New Zealand music history as far as I'm concerned. Now, while the cassette tape had been hidden from the public for 30 years, Jenny had listened to it herself plenty of times since recording it. I don't know how, Jenny said, but there were people that talked about this cassette, and we always just kept very quiet about it. It's about capturing that energy, and when you go back and listen to it, you get a sense of being there again. For really important gigs, that's a lovely thing to be able to do. Now, the show came smack bang right in the middle of Nirvana's tour to Australia and Japan. They played for just over an hour that night with an 18-song set list, with the final song of the show being the big hit Smells Like Teen Spirit, which went down very well with the crowd. Nevermind had been released around 5 months earlier, so the band were starting to become pretty huge worldwide. Locals stated about the show that it was probably the equivalent of the Beatles coming to New Zealand. It was that big. The original plans were for Nirvana to play at the venue The Power Station in Auckland that night. However, that sold out in a day, so they moved it to the Town Hall, and that sold out in about 2 days. Eventually the gig was switched to the Logan Campbell Center, and on the night there were only about 10 people short of a full house. And the ticket prices, just $25, made it accessible for all to go and see Nirvana that night. Now, this New Zealand leg of Nirvana's tour had just come after their Australian tour, where Kurt was really not feeling too good at all. He was going through a lot of problems with his stomach. One of the event organizers stated, "When we got him backstage, he was freezing. We had to get a heater for him to sit in front of with blankets wrapped around him. He was genuinely sick." However, even though Cobain was not feeling so great, he did make a visit to the Real Groovy record store, the record store he had plugged at the beginning of the show. And he brought an album by a Christchurch band called the Axemen. Other fans noted that earlier that day they saw Chris Novoselic and his girlfriend at Victoria Park Markets. They were sitting outside of McDonald's. They had no rock star pretensions. It was a real whirlwind of a time and just a total blur for some, as the band were only in the country for barely 24 hours before they flew out to Japan for the next leg of their tour. In fact, Dave Grohl said that he couldn't even remember the gig in New Zealand. It was just plane after plane after plane and show after show after show. There's a picture of me at the end of the tour and I'm just emaciated, Grohl said. I was just completely withering away from no sleep and no food and playing 5 nights a week. So there it is, guys, $25 back in the day to get in to see Nirvana, the only show they ever did in New Zealand. They were barely there, 24 hours and they were gone. And this New Zealand woman, Jenny, she made the recording from her Sony Walkman that night on cassette. She kept it to herself all these years. But 30 years pretty much to the day after the gig in 2022, she decided to release the audio to the world. And I will put a link below to the audio of the full show so you can check it out in its entirety. The only ever time Nirvana played in New Zealand. Pretty special. So hope you guys enjoyed that one. Be sure to drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'll catch you next time.